Late one rainy night in Oshodi, Bayo the tailor dragged a dusty mannequin into his small shop. His old friend had given it to him for free, said it would help with business. That night, Bayo woke to the sound of his sewing machine whirring, all by itself. In the dim light, the mannequin sat at the table, stitching a dress. Its head turned slowly toward him, though he never touched it. Bayo shook his head, thinking it was a dream. The next morning, the dress the mannequin had been sewing lay neatly folded on the table. The stitches were perfect, better than anything he had ever made. When a customer came later that day, the dress fit her like it had been made just for her. She was so happy she paid double. That night, Bayo locked up early. The rain drummed against the roof as he lay in bed above the shop. Around midnight, the hum of the sewing machine started again. He froze. Slowly, he crept downstairs. The shop was dark except for the soft glow of the street lamp outside. The mannequin sat at the machine, its head bowed like it was focusing on the work. But the way its hands moved, quick, smooth, almost human, made his skin crawl. The mannequin wasn't using fabric from his shelf. Instead, it had strips of cloth he didn't recognize, pale and soft, with faint, dark stains. The next morning, another set of clothes sat on the table, ready for pickup. But Bayo hadn't taken any measurements from anyone that week. Still, when a man walked in asking for a suit, the mannequin's work fit him perfectly. "How did you get my size?" the man laughed, but Bayo couldn't answer. Over the next few days, more clothes appeared each morning. Dresses, shirts, trousers. All perfect. All sold quickly. Customers whispered that Bayo had magic hands. Business boomed. But something felt wrong. He noticed customers coming in looking tired, with strange marks on their skin. Some swore they'd heard knocking in the night, like someone was tapping at their window. One evening, Bayo decided to stay awake and watch. He left the lights off and hid behind the curtain. At exactly midnight, the mannequin's head lifted from the corner where it stood all day. Slowly, stiffly, it stepped away from the sewing table. It walked toward the door, and then it slipped out into the rainy streets. Bayo's heart pounded as he crept after the mannequin. Its movements were jerky yet steady, the wet sound of its feet slapping against the puddles echoing in the empty street. It moved past sleeping shops and quiet kiosks until it stopped in front of a small, rundown apartment block. Slowly, it tilted its head upward, toward a lit window on the second floor. Then, with a strange, twitching grace, it began climbing. Its wooden fingers dug into cracks in the wall as it pulled itself up, silent and deliberate. Bayo's breath caught. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. At the window, the mannequin's head turned side to side, as though checking the room. Then it slid inside. Bayo crept closer, his sandals splashing quietly. The curtains were thin enough for him to see shadows moving inside. The mannequin leaned over a sleeping woman, its hands hovering above her body. Then, click, its fingers bent like scissors, snipping the air, and an invisible seam seemed to form around the woman. Her body twitched as if pulled by threads only the mannequin could see. Bayo stumbled back, panic rising. He wanted to run, but he couldn't stop watching. The mannequin's hands glided over her without touching, and long, pale ribbons of something began to peel away from her skin. It was her warmth, her life. The mannequin folded the ribbons neatly, then placed them in a bag. When it turned toward the window again, Bio ducked behind a wall. His heart hammered as he heard the wet thuds of its feet approach. He dared to peek. The mannequin was carrying the bag like fabric. Inside, Bio saw the faint outline of the woman's face, slack and pale, pressed against the cloth. It passed him without a glance, heading back to the shop. When they reached the shop, the mannequin returned to its table. It unrolled the ribbons, cutting and stitching until the first light of dawn seeped through the windows. On the table lay a beautiful gown, shimmering faintly, almost breathing. Moments later, the doorbell jingled. The woman from the apartment walked in, her eyes glazed, her skin dull like candle wax. She slipped into the dress. It fit perfectly. But when she smiled, it was empty, her lips moving without life. Bayo's stomach turned. He finally understood. The mannequin wasn't sewing with fabric. It was sewing with people. Bayo stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a rack of clothes. The woman twirled in the gown, her lifeless eyes fixed on nothing. The mannequin's head turned toward him, slowly, creaking, and tilted, like it was waiting. "No," Bayo whispered, backing away. "I'm not part of this." But the mannequin reached out and picked up his own measuring tape. It stretched it between its wooden hands, the sound of the tape snapping taut cutting through the silence. Bayo bolted for the door. The woman moved first, blocking his path, still smiling emptily. Her limbs were stiff but strong, pushing him back toward the mannequin. The shop grew colder. The lights flickered. The mannequin stepped forward, its wooden feet clunking on the floor. It pressed the tape against Bayo's chest, measuring, marking, noting. He struggled, but every time he tried to push past the woman, her hands clamped onto him like a vice. He realized with sick horror that she wasn't alive. She was a finished garment, stitched together to wear a body like clothing. The mannequin's head lowered until its face was inches from his. Its fingers flexed, snapping open like scissors. "No! Get away from me!" But the shop door slammed shut on its own. Bayo felt a sudden, deep pull in his chest, like invisible threads were yanking him apart. He screamed as the mannequin's hands moved quickly, cutting him without leaving marks, peeling him away piece by piece. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was his own skin being folded neatly on the table. The next morning, customers found the shop open and bright. A handsome new mannequin stood in the corner, its eyes a familiar deep brown. On the table lay a crisp, perfectly tailored suit, exactly Bayo's size. By afternoon, a smiling young man wore it out into the streets of Oshodi. But if you looked closely, just for a second, you could swear the fabric breathed.
Thanks for watching. If you're new here, or if you have been watching without subscribing, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Give this video a big thumbs up and drop all your comments below. Stay glued because we have so much more coming your way. I will see you guys in our next one. For now, bye.